So the British government have just done something that invades everyone's privacy to an extent I can't even begin to explain. Now, on this channel and my main channel, I've tried to avoid politics as much as possible, only dabbling in it on occasional instances. But this topic supersedes politics. It doesn't matter whether you're left, right, up, down, no one cares. This particular topic genuinely scares me, and I really do mean this. The UK have just introduced a new act which is designed to protect children. Well, at least that's what they're telling us it's designed to do. But in actual reality, yes, it may protect children, but that is just a mere symptom of the main thing that they've caused. This new law that came into effect yesterday means that every single website that could possibly perhaps contain some form of adult content requires us as users to submit either a face scan, a form of ID, a video submission to prove that we're of age, or doing one of 7 different things to prove our identity. Now, just to back up a little bit, whenever you go online to check your passport information or to update information about your passport, the UK government specifically tell you on 5 different separate occasions to not share, distribute, or give that information to anyone else. Meanwhile, they're telling us for any adult website that we can trust them with our identification, our passport numbers, a face ID, a face scan, or a video check. How have we gone from the government saying, be really careful with your information, to, hey, just send your information to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of private companies out there? Now, it's no secret that many companies get hacked. Facebook has been hacked, and pretty much every single adult website has some form of scandal where they've been hacked. Now, at the moment, these websites maybe have some credit card information, but for most people, it's just an email address and a username. That's most of the information that's acquired through these hacks. Now, through these hacks, and I can't believe I'm saying this, people will be able to obtain things like your national insurance number, which is the UK version of your tax code, your driving license ID, maybe even your passport, as some websites are choosing to have passports as the verification model. How has this come to be? Now, we're used to seeing different jokes about how China run their economy and how it's a surveillance state. And basically, in the West, we look at that and go, oh my God, that's absolutely obscene. And we, in some cases, rightfully ridicule that ideology that the police can just watch everything you do and you are completely subject to the government. Yet this law got passed last night. Keir Starmer's not even issued a formal statement via his social media, and bear in mind he tweets about everything else. How have we managed to get this law passed and implemented in the UK without a complete upheaval? Right, sorry, my brain's running at 1,000,000 miles an hour, but the information I've just found out has made my head explode. So a lot of the verification checks are done through like Face ID, different ID, whether it be a passport or anything else. They're all carried out by a third-party company called Yoti. Well, the CEO of this company happens to also be the CEO of some of the biggest tech companies in the UK. Not just tech, but biggest businesses. Octopus Energy, Dunelm Mill, which by the way is like one of the biggest retailers in the UK. This guy is somehow the CEO of some of the biggest businesses in the UK, all in one row, and no one's asking any questions. Why is this guy getting this contract to manage all of the UK's data when he's in with some of the members of parliament? He's mutual friends on LinkedIn with tons of MPs. Why is this guy that's linked to UK government now being the guy that gets to collect and manage all of our data? Hang on a second here. Why are people not asking questions about this shit? Now, just to be 100% clear on this, I fully agree that we should find ways to stop children accessing adult content online. I fully agree with that. But there has to be another way. And I think the true answer is probably somewhere in the education of parents. I mean, how hard can it be for a child in a family to go into the family drawer in the kitchen, take a picture of their mum or dad's passport, and then use it to get online on these websites? Whichever way you look at it, it comes down to parenting. So rather than making everyone else suffer for many bad parents out there, how about we start the problem earlier and find different ways? At the moment, through internet browsers, parents can activate family child locks that stop adult content being accessible through that home network or only being accessible on certain devices. This is stuff that already exists. And if there's issues with children accessing adult sites, that is at the discretion and it's the full responsibility of the parents. Turning the whole UK into a surveillance state more than it already was becoming is not the answer to this problem. Like, how many of you out there right now can honestly say that you would trust all of these big tech companies? And to be honest, it's not just big tech companies. any website that has any content that might be risque on it, how much do you trust them to handle your passport information? Do you trust that they won't get hacked? Do you trust them to have face scans of your face? The same data that's used to unlock and access your phone. Now, you may be thinking, well, okay, this is bad, but it can't get much worse. You're wrong. Under this same act that they've introduced, it gives the government the rights and access to access all of your personal messages, all of your DMs, any conversations you have online, and by the way, that supersedes the encryption that you have on WhatsApp. Now, platforms, thankfully, first time I'm ever going to say this in my life, thankfully to Meta, they are trying to get around this, and they're currently in conversations with the UK government about how this invades privacy and also how it doesn't work with WhatsApp. At the moment, WhatsApp is the biggest messaging app in the UK, and the end-to-end encryption is actually a huge feature. Having to do away with that for UK citizens not only presents risks in terms of the government accessing our private DMs with our families, but also presents risks in the fact that it makes the platform itself less secure. But also part of this act means that these companies have to turn over all of this information to the UK government if requested. No, not requested in the case of a legal case, if the government just asks for it. Nothing we do is private now. This is becoming worse than China. Worse than Russia. This is genuinely worrying. And there are people from both sides of the political spectrum that come up with arguments like, well, I've got nothing to hide, so I don't really care. But this isn't the point. I know this is probably a bad example, and probably an example in bad taste, but for example, in early 1900s Germany, there was many things happening in Germany that were actually positive for the population of Germany. There was actual reform happening. Now, they made loads of laws and loads of changes to benefit the population, and then Hitler came into power. And all of those same laws were then used to control the people. In the case of the UK and even the US for that matter, laws being implemented that have the ability to be abused by new leaders in the future then set a worrying precedent where we can end up getting absolutely shafted. And that's already being the case. I don't tend to dabble in British politics because it's like choosing who you want to get beaten up and ass fucked by. Either way, like, you don't win. The British population rarely win from anything our government does. But in the case of this, which borders on the line of censorship, private companies getting access to our information, this is by far the most anti-British population thing that the government has ever done in at least the last 50 years. Maybe that's wrong, but I would argue that this is really damaging for the future of the internet, if you're a UK citizen at least. Now, one of the craziest hypocritical things that I just want to touch on, and I'm just coming back to this video in the edit, in 2018 in the EU, there was something called the General Data Protection Regulation. This was a new law that came in 2018, and if you've ran an online business, you'll know that this thing took over the internet for the longest time. Basically, do you know, whenever you go to a website in the UK or in the EU, there's an opt-in thing where you have to like choose all your options. Every time I open Google now, I have to select which options I'm happy to have them track and all of this stuff. It was a whole initiative designed to protect people using the internet, to make sure that we were aware of what cookies were being used on websites and all of that stuff. Now, a big proponent of this were the UK. The UK was a massive driving force behind this to protect its citizens and to actually update the existing Data Protection Act that we had back in 1998, because obviously the internet's changed a lot since then. Now, this whole law and regulation coming into place was a great thing, but the whole idea is having to use these websites and now having to submit some of the most confidential information we have, such as identification. It's absolutely obscene, because just 7 years ago, someone tracking what ads you were watching on the website was considered to be really taboo, to the point where we had to be aware of everything websites were doing with our data. Now we can upload pictures of our identification, some of the most confidential information we have, and that's considered absolutely A-OK by the British government. Now, are there ways to get around this? Legally, no. Part of this act means that the usage of VPNs to get around this is considered illegal. But it's not a surveillance state. It's not a surveillance state. It's definitely not a surveillance state. But obviously, the first sponsor I ever had on my main channel, the first company that ever reached out that agreed to collaborate with me, as obviously I care about being anonymous as much as possible, was Private Internet Access. And there is not a sponsored video, by the way, but there is an affiliate link down below. By using a VPN, which you definitely shouldn't do for instances such as the new rules in the UK, you could, but you shouldn't. This video is going to get taken down. Yes, by the way, the UK government are taking down videos and content online where people talk about the usage of VPNs to get around this. Yep, Definitely not an agenda. You can get around this by just saying that you're in the United States or, in fact, any other fucking country in the world that doesn't have these stupid regulations. So, yeah, definitely don't download the VPN at the link below. Definitely don't do that, because that would be illegal to circumvent these laws that are being implemented by the tyrants. I mean, shit. UK government. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.